大家好，每一个在澳大利亚生活的华人，经常都能在新闻中听到自由党和工党的消息。澳联社已经带大家了解了很多联邦的政客，尤其是来自自由党的。那今天我们在新州的地方政府邀请到了一位比较特殊的嘉宾，他的名字是 Brandon Roberts。他不光是自由党 Randwick 的一个副官 Deputy Mayor， 同时他也是 John Alexander 的 Media Advisor， 也就是媒体顾问。今天我们将通过Brandon Roberts 了解一下 Randwick 的发展以及自由党分支是什么样的一个运营的一个情况。Thanks for having time with us. Maybe you explain a little bit about your role as the president of the Maroubra Beach branch.
Yes, well, the Liberal Party is one of the major parties in Australia, and the party is divided into branches, and they're centred around suburbs and residential areas. And obviously in Randwick, there's a number of branches, and my branch is Maroubra Beach branch. And that's because I live in Maroubra Beach, one of the best places in the world to live. Beautiful surf, great beaches. It's a great beach, great place to live. The lifestyle is amazing. And we have a branch there, and we welcome anyone who has similar liberal values to us. It's a welcoming place to come, and we gather about once a month and we talk about politics. And I'm very, very fortunate to be the president of that branch.
What do you normally do as the president, actually?
As a president, there's a couple of things we need to do. We need to, well, each branch is different, but what my priorities are for my branch is to grow the branch membership and also to provide benefits to being a member. And that's typically a monthly social dinner. So it's not too dense, it's not too serious. It's just a place for people to come together, to feel comfortable with each other, who have a like mind. And we have special guest speakers to come along as well. And so that's pretty much what we do. And then when election time comes around, we then ask our branch members to help with the election campaign. So that's typically what we do.
As we all know, is that on the 9th of September, we are going to have a local council election. On your areas, Randwick, what is your plan?
Randwick is coming up for elections, you're right. It's local government elections. And I'm currently the Deputy Mayor of Randwick. I'm one of the Liberal councillors. And as a Liberal councillor, there's some priorities for me. And one of the first priorities for Randwick is I want to make sure that we do not borrow money. We need to be sustainable, we need to live within our means. And it's very important, it's one of the key priorities for me as a councillor is to ensure the budget of Randwick stays under control. The second one is to retain freedom for our citizens. So I want to try and limit, as far as possible, the over-regulation of our lives. A lot of other people, particularly members of the Greens Party, and sometimes even the Labor Party, they seek to tell us what is right and what is wrong, and then pass laws banning things. So in the Liberal Party, we just like to regulate only as much as we need to, and then leave the citizens free to act and conduct their own lives. And my third priority as a Randwick councillor is to try and boost the number of events and the number of social gatherings that are possible in Randwick. At the moment, most of the events are run by Randwick Council, and frankly, they potentially could be a bit more colourful. So I'd like to open that up, invite third parties to put on events, and Randwick Council can facilitate that as opposed to run them in their own, in their own volition. So that's my three priorities.
You mentioned about managing the budget for the local council. What is the budget normally for?
Well, the budget is quite large. In Sydney, there's too many councils, so they're pretty small compared to, say, China. But we take up most of the eastern suburbs of Sydney, and our budget is about $150 million. And what we spend that on is, a lot of it is the council bureaucracy, which I would like to see minimised, obviously. And the main expenses is roads, footpaths, potholes, garbage removal. We also completely fund the libraries. So there's about 3 or 4 libraries in Randwick, and they're very good quality, they're a world standard, but obviously that costs a lot of money as well. So we also have rangers, obviously, and we also do food inspections. So every cafe needs to make sure their cafe is safe and they don't give food poisoning to their customers. So the way we make sure that happens, or doesn't happen, is Randwick rangers or food inspectors visit these premises and check that they're up to standard. So there's lots of areas that the council does spend money on. And one of our key things that we do is we try and minimise our general expenses and maximise the gap between our revenue and the general expenses, and that gap is what we call the capital expenditure, and that's what we really spend on improving the roads, but also things like the coastal walkway. TripAdvisor says I think it's the #1 tourist attraction in Sydney. It even beats Sydney Harbour Bridge. There's gaps in that coastal walkway because there's lots of distance, and we spend money on maybe closing those gaps and making that coastal walkway continuous for tourists, say tourists from China, to come along. They could walk all the way from Bondi Beach all the way down to beautiful La Perouse and the entrance to Botany Bay. So yeah, that's what we like to see in the future.
You also mentioned in the future you guys would like to organize more events. What type of events you would actually welcome in Randwick?
My priority is to see more mass attendance events. So thousands and thousands of people coming together to look at something, say a festival or some sort of theme. And at the moment, we have only about half a dozen, 6 events, and they're all run by the council. And if you're a third party, say you're a chamber of commerce, you want to put something on, or if you're a private citizen and you got a great idea for an event, there's too many barriers in their way to see their vision come to life. And those barriers are council imposed barriers. And I think we need to bring those barriers down, give these people, these parties, these third parties, these organisations an opportunity to provide fantastic events for people to enjoy, and just let council facilitate that as opposed to be the command and controllers of that. So that's a big priority for me, because I think the people of Randwick and the people of Australia in general and Sydney would like to see more of these events. And they're not getting it at the moment in Randwick, where they are getting it in other areas.
I'm wondering, you mentioned about there are many barriers to get anything done. Also, there aren't that many events going on in Randwick. And also, you also mentioned you think it's a little bit colourful. What is the problem there?
Randwick Council, they're a great council. I love them, and they put on great events. But they don't hold the monopoly on event management in Randwick. And at the moment they do. And so if you have the control for all events just in one little management area, then that's a big opportunity cost for whatever the potential could have been. That we don't even know what could have happened. You're limited by your imagination. But if only one management people decide what the events are, and they don't even they make it not deliberately, but through their own processes, make it impossible for other parties to put up, then I think there's a big opportunity cost there for our residents. And frankly, you are limited by your imagination, and I think the potential for amazing events, amazing places to attend for free for our residents is going begging at the moment, so that's a big priority.
I recently actually visited Maroubra Beach, and as you know, I realize there aren't that many developments going on as other areas in New South Wales, like North Sydney, Chatswood, or even the city of Sydney. So is that one of the priorities, to develop or not develop in Randwick?
It's a very sensitive issue. So we need to develop in a responsible way where we bring our residents along with us, agreeing with the policies, and they do not want to see high-rise, particularly close to the coast. So that's sort of the reality of the situation. So if you try and bring in big development fast, you'll basically have a rebellion, and if you're a political leader, you'll probably get kicked out. So it's a very big balancing act. And so in Randwick we have a document called the LEP, the Local Environmental Plan, and that defines the areas for the higher density. And at the moment we have defined areas for higher rise, places like Maroubra Junction and Kensington and Kingsford area around Anzac Parade. And we've identified areas of low density, and that's near the beach. And at this stage, there's no plans to increase the density, but I certainly would support urban renewal, because at the moment a lot of the urban infrastructure down there is old and could be renewed. But whether that's with increased density is another question.
I actually know one of the Chinese candidates in Eastwood. Recently, his campaign line is like, basically fight with the politicians. They think the local councils are not really working properly. They think the councillors are not really hearing the citizens, the communities. What is your advice for people trying to reach out to you guys? What should they do?
Well, the good thing about local government in Australia is you generally have more than one councillor for your area. So unlike the state level, which is equivalent to the province in China, and the national level, you just have one representative for your area. So it's take it or leave it. If you like them, it's great. If you don't like them, it's bad. But at council level, you typically have 2 or 3 or even more councillors for where you live in your ward. So if you don't like one councillor, they don't give you what you want, shop around, go to the next one. And it's typically, you generally get a councillor who aligns with you, and then they could potentially be your champion.
Thank you, and we hope you are going to be our champion in Randwick. 相信大家通过今天的这个采访，已经对澳大利亚的地方政府有一定的了解。也像 Brandon Roberts 所讲的，如果大家有任何不满的地方，可以寻找不同的 counselor。大家可以在我们的视频下方留言，我们会将您的无论是意见还是抱怨，向相应的政客进行一个反馈。谢谢。Thank you.
Thanks, Jethro. Yeah, I hope it was good for you. Yeah.